Hello, welcome to this Computer Weekly video. I'm Bryan Glick, I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Computer Weekly. And in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the challenges of creating a modern digital workplace and what you have to do to perhaps transform your organisation to take advantage of some of the modern digital tools, technologies and techniques that help your staff to become more productive. Now this is one of a series of 4 videos that we're producing on this topic, and in this one we're going to be talking in particular about some of the people aspects of what makes a productive workspace. Now to help me do that, I'm joined by 2 experts here. First of all, John Chambers. John is the UK Sales Director for IT and Communication Services at Ricoh, and Helen Liaudin. Helen is the Account Director at Ricoh. Welcome, both of you. Thanks very much for coming on to join us. John, let's start with you. We're talking about this slightly ephemeral topic of digital workplaces and so forth, and particularly the people aspects of that. Why is this something that's important to businesses at the moment? Why are businesses even talking about this as an issue?
Well, I think, Brian, most organisations will say people are their biggest asset, so, really the question for them is, well, what are they doing about that? Because, it's the biggest cost, and really if they're going to look at, attracting and retaining the best talent, they need to think about how they're going to do that. I think the creation of a culture and an environment that really fosters, the ability to bring that talent into the business and to be able to perform. So that's, really, really important from that, creating the right environment. I think secondly, from an employee experience perspective, that's becoming a really hot topic for most businesses where, if you can't create the right employee experience, you can't drive the attraction and retention of talent, but also, where you're looking at how you can create that to drive productivity and allow organisations and allow the people within them to work smarter. So, it's really, really important for organisations to think about people first, and then really anything else behind that, such as processes, technology, workspace, is an enabler for those people. So some really difficult challenges for organisations to try and pull that together. But the first focus has got to be how they can take that and adapt that for the people within their business.
Yeah, we're all like that as employees, aren't we? Just so aware of the workplace around us makes such a huge difference. Yeah. Now, it's not just about technology, clearly, but meeting some of the challenges that you've described there presents a lot of issues for people who are working in IT, for CIOs and so forth, who quite often are tasked with creating, especially the digital aspects of this. What are the biggest challenges that people in IT face in delivering against what you were describing there?
I think the biggest challenge is really understanding. So you've got to really grasp an understanding of the people within your organisation and the way that they work, because without that as a platform or a foundation, you can't really make the right decisions. And those decisions then need to be focused on the creation of the workspace environment, but also the enablement through technology and the right processes to support that. So, it's a difficult challenge, but I think, traditionally organisations have looked at technology and pushed that into the business. And I think in today's environment, that doesn't really work anymore. So you have to have the connection between those enablement tools, a process, workspace and technology to really support the people within the business.
So, Helen, there's some new ways of thinking that John's described there in terms of how to put this digital workplace together. Now, you've obviously worked with a lot of organisations that are going through this sort of process. How are you finding they've gone about tackling some of the challenges that John's described there?
Yes, I think certainly what John said around understanding the workplace and the workforce is the most important thing. A lot of the sort of CIOs, IT directors see the understanding that persona as a catalyst then for looking at what the technology then needs to be. So, if you spend a day with one of your users or employees, you can understand from the start of the day to the finish of the day what their challenges are, what they use, what they need to use, how they work, what they need to be able to be most productive. And from there, I think then you can start to think about what technology may work to sort of support that environment. But first of all, it's understanding that user experience is the key thing.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it, to take the people with you as you go through that process. Now, we talked theoretically about some of the things you can do here. Can you perhaps try and bring some of it to life and illustrate some of the points that you've made, perhaps by talking through any examples of some of the organisations that you have worked with, or typical organisations you've worked with, and what they've done?
Yeah. So if I think about sort of a particular, it's a healthcare company, what they've had to do is they're trying to sort of grow their business to maybe number one in the marketplace. And what they've had to do is take that challenge of making sure they map the back end process to the user process as well. So they've looked at it not just from the point of view of obviously the user engagement is key, but also looking at the back end processes to support what the users are then doing. So we engage in something called like a persona assessment, and that also brings in the processes that map to what the personas are doing. So it's understanding from your workforce, again, what do they do every day, and actually maybe sort of coming up with certain user profiles, so not a one size fits all, and going through and mapping then what technology then will support what those users are doing from a day-to-day basis.
If there was one piece of advice you could give to somebody who was setting out on that process now, what would that be?
I think with this challenge, you've got to understand why you're going to do it, and the communication of that is absolutely key. We've done quite a lot of research, the Economy of People paper that we did with Oxford Economics, followed up by the Optimal Office, allows you to look at some of the areas that you might need to consider, and I think that communication and the why you're doing it, because what we have found is that potentially in the middle management, sometimes you find something called the treacle layer, which it doesn't really adopt. They're not pushing that through the rest of the business, so you can hit some challenges. So I think really knowing why you're doing it and that communication through all of the levels is really, really important.
Okay, Helen, what's your one big piece of advice?
I think it's making sure you had the senior stakeholder driving what the business is doing and sort of leading from the top. If you don't have that senior stakeholder engagement and just, again, taking the users on that journey, I think that's the key thing.
That's really good, helpful advice from both of you there. John Chambers, Helen Liaudin from Ricoh, thanks very much for coming along and sharing some of your experiences of the people aspects of building a modern digital workplace. That's all we've got time for on this particular video. I mentioned at the start that this is one of a series of videos looking at various different aspects of building a modern digital workplace. Thanks for watching.